Alright, well, there's a new Asylum movie out, and it's Grimm Snow White, because two Snow Whites this year just isn't enough. There's gotta be a third.
It was so bad, you guys.
Well, okay, you go ahead. Cause
No, because I won't be quiet.
You have more to say about this than me.
I do.
Like, throughout this movie, like, you're commenting left and right on stuff that was going on in the movie, and meanwhile, I'm just sitting there, like, just watching it, just like, well, it's gonna be over soon. Like, I really don't care. Like, I can't bring myself to get emotional one way or the other about it. It's just not good, is all.
I take my fairy tale canon very seriously.
Even in an Asylum movie?
Okay, but it had like the dinosaur stuff, which whatever, it's
dragons,
Asylum.
Yeah, the dogs, the giant dogs.
Yeah, it could have been as awesome as Sherlock Holmes, but
It's from the director of Sherlock Holmes.
Shame on you!
Yeah.
Sherlock Holmes was awesome.
Sherlock Holmes was a great Asylum movie.
Oh God!
If there's a great Asylum movie, it's Sherlock Holmes. This movie is from the same director,
the Battle
but
of Los Angeles was good
that
too.
was fun. I liked that one. It's from the director of that, and also but at the same time, she also directed Sunday School Musical, so it's not like she has a fantastic track record.
Well, first off, sorry.
Well, my thing about this movie is that when the Asylum starts taking their story a little too seriously, like when they play it, I guess not so much the act. Yeah, like because I've seen Asylum movies that work where the actors are playing it straight, but the movie is done tongue in cheek, like Sherlock Holmes,
where they're well aware of what they're making.
Yeah, but still kind of playing it straight, and that's what makes it sort of funny, even though the movie itself is written and shot very, very campy and tongue-in-cheek. This one, no.
It tried to do so many epic shots with the slow motion of
the trees
8 people. Well, that and then going through, it's like the only person I knew aside from Snow White the Queen, they gave the prince a name, which don't even remember
Prince Alexander.
Yeah, I didn't pay attention. But the only person I actually knew of the characters was the fucking servant Isabella, because they kept mentioning her 50,000 times.
Well, same with Runt.
Yeah, and Runt. Runt was awesome. Runt was like if Patton Oswalt and Mary from Lord of the Rings would have had a baby.
He looked like Martin Freeman to me. He came across very Martin Freeman. But yeah, so like you could have done Snow White and made it pretty campy, you know.
She was blonde.
Like,
Snow White was blonde.
Well, now you're just splitting hairs.
No, she was dressed like Alice from Alice in Wonderland. She had the blue dress and the white thing, and the opening is just bad because they do like the thing in, legend and fairy tales where they're like, tales a long time, and it scrolls up. But they had that opening monologue of, scrolling, but then the character of Snow White says it like 15 minutes later when they're walking through, and I was like, okay.
Well, the movie is that there's a star that exploded, which created an eternal flame, which gives the elves magic powers, and the elves are guarding it, and the queen wants this power. The queen wants this power, but it is located in land that she does not own, so when her husband dies, she wants to marry the prince. That way she can control all of this power. And the movie doesn't make a lot of sense, because given that the elves have this power, like there's this climatic battle where they have to overthrow the queen's giant army. And like the elves, they're like hidden away in the woods, and like some of them are servants, and they are second-class citizens of this movie, but they have the power to cause fucking earthquakes in this land, open up the ground into the gates of hell to kill people. They have the power to make people look like somebody else. Yeah. They have the power to change people's appearances. They have... Okay, when Snow White...
see, now it's coming out. When we were watching it, you're just mad. Now you're like, whoa.
Oh, I was thinking about this when I was watching it, but whatever. Like... But like, okay, when Snow White, dies, not by the apple, but by like a deadly ring. She dies by a deadly ring, and it's all sad, and they're about to set her on fire.
Yeah, I was
and they're about to set her body on fire and whatnot. Then the prince comes and brings her back. But then at the end, the prince dies, and the elves bring him back to life. So it's like, Well, we could bring Snow White back to life, but fuck it, let's just burn her.
I was thinking the same thing, but you see, you had like the 3 extra dark elves. They didn't have the power by themselves. And the dark elves, by the way, they're barely mentioned, but it's kind of within the epic battle, Lord of the Rings style, where it's like, look, the dark elves, they're coming, and then it's and
hell, Snow White was barely in this. Snow White probably didn't have 10 lines. Of
I know,
dialogue
and
in
she
this.
looked like the chick from Scrubs. So that
she did look like Church. She was good looking.
Asylum has this great, uncanny casting ability, and at least when Sarah and I watch Asylum movies, we're like, hey, it's not Matt Damon, or just, or actors look like 2 people would have had a baby, and that's who's playing it. But yeah, that was just, everything was just haphazard, and as listening to you describing, what was happening, you make it sound way more epic than it actually was as well.
It's as epic as an Asylum movie about a deadly Renaissance fair can go.
There's
like
so
all the
much
shots
wrong
of the
in this
woods,
movie.
I've been in movies before that are mostly shot in the woods because woods are cheap. You can just go to the woods, fuck it, whatever. We'll make
Location.
We'll make it. We'll make this giant movie, and so. It's getting to the point where, like, that's what I'm expecting out of every Asylum film, because, like, even at the very beginning of this, like, it's a shot of the woods and it says the title of the movie, and I cannot think of how many times I've seen that in Asylum movies. Probably the same shot. There are shots in this movie that I swear are reused shots from the Almighty Thor. And even in that, I think in those it was still, like, stock footage from other Asylum movies.
So it's like the Toxic Avenger car crash. Overused again.
Yeah, but that's on the
great.
joke.
Oh yeah,
they're aware of what they're doing in that. In this one, it's like, I think that the Asylum is now only legally allowed to shoot in the woods.
To be fair though, if you're gonna have something shot in the woods, Snow White would be the one to do it.
Sure, yeah. But not like I Am Omega or Almighty Thor.
In the woods.
Alien versus Hunter. I think that was another one that was all in the. That was all in the woods.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just kind of wondering, is Poison Apple copyrighted? Because they decided to go with this huge ring thing about, like, poison and everything.
Hey, I don't know, maybe this is, like, a really, really faithful adaptation. Like, it's... I mean, I wouldn't know, but, like...
Let me hug you around your neck.
It's called Grimm Snow White. They would put Grimms in there if it wasn't really, really faithful.
Really? Really? No.
Like, so...
The Sigourney Weaver Snow White was awesome.
Yeah, that was really good. That's... One thing about this is, like, because in other versions of Snow White I've seen, I've always been so much more attracted to the Queen. Like, I always found the Queen usually way more attractive than Snow White. And in this one that wasn't the case. Snow White in this was far better looking than Jane March.
She was also far, far younger.
Well, even with that said, I've still usually found, like, the Queen more
because
attractive.
Sigourney Weaver, she was really pretty... in the beginning of the movie, and then she started going batshit crazy, and then they made her look ugly.
Yeah.
Well, because it was funny, because she wasn't a bad-looking woman, and Snow White, was prettier. I just don't understand why she was blonde. Don't have anything against blondes, but if there's one thing,
they had to do something
you should
different.
get right.
They had to change it up.
No, if there's one thing, but she had brown roots.
Oh, she dyed her hair.
Why? And she was dressed like Alice from Alice in Wonderland. And no, whoa.
She was, yeah.
The opening scene is, the big lizard monster kills of what you assume is Snow White's dad because the dad dies.
Yeah.
So then the dad is, in the coffin, and he looks remarkably well for having survived a giant lizard attack.
The lizard spit him out.
The
big dragon
queen,
spit. He wasn't gamey enough for him. Yeah, and then, like, they did a lot of stuff to cut down, like, effects work and stuff. And then, I mean, they did a lot of stuff to cut out with gore, I think, because you could tell
the blurred shots.
There were shots of bodies like bit in half, but they were blurred, and there
kids need to know the true story, and kids have to be able to watch
when the huntsman gets fed to the dogs. They like cut away from that. There's a sex scene at one point where it fades to black.
That faded to black quicker than Twilight.
Yeah, much quicker.
It was just like, and the thing is, that was the first time you saw the person, because it was the Queen's new henchman, and she was like, go out and find her, interrogate the elves, and you don't have to be nice about it. Then, like, he kind of sits on the bed, and she does, like, the cougar lean towards him, and then it fades to black, so they're not even, I was like, I think there was supposed to be a sex scene there.
Yeah,
but,
I'm positive
there
was.
No, I don't even know if it was, like, cut, or whether it was
looks
just
like
implied.
it was cut. It like faded to black midway through him, like,
but it is
moving
Asylum.
down. I've seen Asylum movies that have nudity and stuff in them. I think that this one was just severely edited down because it's called Snow White.
They never even used the heart, because, I mean, you know, he carves the heart, and that's another thing, too. It's the whole, how that happens, and the huntsman ends up being good, and before he gets tortured and junk, he gives the ring to his son. He's like, go, and I never killed anybody, the queen wanted me to. But before, when he was tricking her, he cuts the heart out of, you know, his companion friend. Yeah. But Snow White is, like, passed out on the ground. So it's like, alright, so he's free fodder for heart-taking, but you're going to leave the girl alone. Whatever. But they don't even, like, the heart has no purpose. She just feeds it to the dogs. And the whole point of the heart was, you know, for her to imbue, you know, the beauty and river magic and all that crap.
I'm not faulting the movie for not being a faithful adaptation of Snow White.
But, okay.
I'm faulting it for not being entertaining, because seriously, like if this movie was, I guarantee you, if this movie went like really, really, really campy, which is what I want out of an asylum film, if it was about like cyborgs or something like that, I don't think you'd be complaining that it was not faithful to if it was about cyborgs and like the dragon was the dragon was also like part gorilla or something, and like there were even instead of dogs there were sharks. There were sharks with legs that could chase them.
I get it.
That would be great. You deny that would be awesome?
No, that would be awesome. But my issue isn't with the fact that it wasn't canon. It was the fact that they cut it out for gore. So they had him cutting a heart. Didn't even show the heart. He's coming through town all like blood splattered. Everything's cool.
They showed the heart.
No, it was in.
But she like kind of unwrapped it a little bit, and you saw it.
Barely saw it. But then she feeds it to the dogs, and it was just kind of like she's going Caligula style, but you didn't even see it, so I was disappointed.
Big CGI giant dogs.
They did, and they were ginormous, and that was another thing, too, is like, okay, yeah, you're not going to be canon Snow White, whatever, but there's even certain plot holes, massive, just what the fuck moments in the movie. The prince not noticing that, you know, the queen's evil when he had to fend the dogs, the giant mutant dogs, off from Snow White. He's like, the queen's dogs, blah, 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 and then he saves her, and he's still baffled that the queen is evil.
It's because he wants to fuck the chick from Color of Night. You don't see Jane March in too much stuff anymore.
She's been in stuff recently.
Yeah, she was in Clash of the Titans. But yeah, Jane March is the queen here. Like, not buying it. She plays the queen like a really, really stern English teacher from high school.
That's another thing too, is I couldn't figure out whether this was English fairy tale land or French fairy tale land, because half the people were speaking with British accents and the other half sounded like they were French people speaking English.
Well, welcome to my world. I see that on a weekly basis.
What do you go through?
I'll show you Ilsa, the Wicked Warden.
No, I'm just saying, you know, whatever, Snow White and the elves, love elves, the elvish ears. I've seen better elves on cosplayers. God. They were discolored. They weren't blended. It was very distracting.
It was really distracting.
It was just like this. It wasn't even skin tone, really. It was almost like goblin ears, where they were slightly green tinted, and you could see the seams with whatever. Nothing's perfect, but if cosplayers can get it right, and you can get, you know, elf ears on eBay for $17, spend that budget on the movie. I don't need to see like giant dogs like 4 different times when they don't need to be seen, and
they would come in last place at a cosplayers convention. It was that bad.
Oh, even the fitting was horrible. Like, okay, whatever, you're making a period piece, make oldie clothes where they just look like someone went to Salvation Army and was like, this'll work for that. Nothing was fitted. Everybody looked like 80 pounds larger than they were, because you could tell in the next, like when the maiden came, I was like, she looked like large Marge ate Roseanne, but she had like a skinny face. And I noticed the same with the prince too. He was like rocking saggy baggies there for a while, to where I seriously thought he was going to pull up his pants.
Well, obviously, you buy the costume before you cast the actor. Every director knows that.
So was this like Snow White at fat camp then? Because all of the clothes...
That would be a much better asylum
all of the clothes,
movie.
Except for the queen. They made sure she was pristine. But like, and all of the clothes were just very ill-fitting, which... You know, whatever, you make do with what you have, but at the same time, just safety pins
Snow White
in the
at
back.
fat camp. I like that. She said she should be eating the hearts, the liver, the organs.
That's why she doesn't want to eat the apple, because it's healthy. It's got to be chocolate
right?
covered
The
apple.
apple's way too healthy. You know, if there's some a decent thing I could say about it, some of the acting isn't bad. Honestly, the guy who played the prince,
the guy that was the main elf guy, he was
good. Yeah, like
even the old
runt
medicine
guy.
woman, because like they didn't really like the one that gets Snow White back to health. She wasn't bad, but she didn't really have much character development to work with. So
No
when
one
she,
did.
Well, no, I know. I'm just saying she wasn't bad, but she wasn't entirely memorable just for the sake that she didn't get as many soliloquies. As
Even
other
the relationship between Snow White and the prince is. These two were barely on screen together throughout this movie. Really,
it was
Snow
quicker
White,
than Romeo and Juliet.
Yeah,
like,
no,
they
it's
at least
it's
had
quicker.
a tryst.
Yeah, it's quicker. It's quicker than like fuck. It's more shallow than fucking Twilight. Because it's seriously like at this point, like this isn't love. This isn't anything. He just wants to fuck her.
Well, the best part is with the opening.